What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Pokemon Platinum. And the last episode, after gathering the last of the things we were able to get with our bike and with the Cut HM, we finally set out on Route 207 towards Mount Coronet. Made our way through Mount Coronet very quickly, I might add. And we are now out here on Route 208. Before we go anywhere, there's a couple things I'm going to do. First things first, I am going to teach Grass Knot to Gong Gong, just because he has some pretty terrible moves right now, and it will be nice to kind of round those things out a little bit. So we're going to get rid of Imprison right off the bat. I'm also going to teach Gong Gong Stealth Rock, actually, because that's going to come in handy for a few reasons, especially since he just kind of can't do much right now. But it does some pretty darn good damage, so we'll do that. And again, we're trying to just add type coverage to the whole situation. So I'm a Hypnosis hater just because of how low its accuracy is, so I'm going to get rid of that. Even though I have horrible luck with Confuse Ray, it's a lot more guaranteed than Hypnosis, so we're going to get rid of that. Those are all TMs that I may replace later. Now, I should also mention that Gong Gong is capable of learning Earthquake, but I will not be teaching that to him. We're going to be saving this TM for something else a little bit later on. But now, let's set out here on Route 208. We have a lot of trainers to still fight out here, though we can't fight all of them because we don't have the Surf HM. But as I do this, I have a lot of Pokemon to talk about because Mount Coronet had 4 new Pokemon that we could catch, and Route 208 has a 5th. So we're going to go over each and every single one of those. For starters, let's talk about the Mount Coronet ones. One of the new Pokemon that can be caught in there is Nosepass. Now, we already encountered a Nosepass earlier. Nosepass is a pretty darn decent Pokemon that has pretty well-rounded stats, very good defenses like most rock types do, but it is obviously very slow. However, what makes Nosepass very interesting in Gen 4 is that it has an evolution known as Probopass. And Probopass is awesome. That is an incredibly powerful Pokemon that packs a huge wallop. It has insanely good defenses and insanely good special defense, while also having a pretty nice special attack stat. It's actually better than its physical attack stat, so you want to spec into that, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's just a lot more useful that way. But very good Pokemon overall if you can go to get around to actually evolving it, which I do believe does require trading. So not the easiest thing to get your hands on, but if you can somehow do it. Oh, sorry, no, not trading. Sorry, you just need to level it up in a magnetic field area, which there is, I want to say, hold on. Okay, that's right. Yeah, you just have to level it up at a certain level in Mount Coronet, and you should be fine. I think it might be, is there a special level it has to be at? I don't think so. I think you just level it up once in Mount Coronet and becomes a Probopass. And you're set and good to go. And it's, like I said, really strong Pokemon. That Steel and Rock typing is awesome. I would actually pick it over Shieldon / Bastiodon personally. But I'm sure some other people might feel differently. All right, next Pokemon that we got in Mount Coronet is Meditite, the Psychic and Fighting type Pokemon. It's got some pretty well-rounded stats. It's overall not super impressive once it evolves into Medicham, but that type combination in and of itself is pretty darn good, so definitely worth going after if you want to. Then we have Chingling, and Chingling is another baby Pokemon, not unlike Badoo, that eventually evolves into Chimecho. Chimecho used to be a Pokemon that could not evolve at all, therefore it's not really on the strong side. It's one of the weaker Pokemon that you can get out there, but I mean, it's got some really interesting moves. It learns a lot of noise-based moves like Uproar, and it's got some interesting psychic abilities, but this is all to say that I'm not really a huge fan of it other than its design. I love the way that Chimecho looks, but I don't think it's a very good Pokemon, so I would not recommend going after it absolutely. Then we have Clefairy. Now, Clefairy did not really come into its own until it eventually got a fairy typing generations down the road. Right now, it's just a normal type that eventually evolves into Clefable. The only thing that's good about Clefable is it can learn a lot of TMs. Aside from that, its stats are just kind of mediocre. There's not really a whole lot that's worth doing with it. Really, all this is to say that the only Pokemon absolutely worth getting in Mount Coronet right now is Nosepass. I mean, Meditite's fine. I don't hate it, but there are definitely better Psychic and Fighting types throughout the game that you can go after. But yeah, Probopass is definitely the one that sticks out the most as this is actually worth getting in that area. However, here in Route 208, there is a Pokemon that is definitely worth getting. And remember how I talked about how well, actually, no. Hold on. Now I'm thinking about it. That's actually the wrong evolutionary stone, isn't it? Never mind. Okay, sorry. The evolutionary stone I was thinking of doesn't come till later. But, okay, regardless, Sorry, my trains of thought sometimes go all over the place, especially when I forget certain details. But no, what I was going to say is that the new Pokemon caught here on Route 208 is Ralts. Now, Ralts can eventually evolve into Gardevoir, which by itself is an incredibly good Psychic-type Pokemon. There's no way you can go wrong with this Pokemon. It's kind of the equivalent to Alakazam, except for Alakazam is more attack and offensively focused. Gardevoir is more defensively focused, but still has a very good special attack stat. It's just more special defense that its strongest suit, although it does have very weak physical defenses. Good Pokemon all around. However, if you want to get an offensive Pokemon, instead of evolving it into Gardevoir by just leveling it up, if you have a Dawnstone, you can evolve Kirlia into Gallade if it's male. It cannot evolve into Gallade if it's a female, unfortunately. But Gallade has a very high physical attack stat, which allows it to be one of the very few high damage physical attacking psychic types in the game up to this point. Very, very good Pokemon. It's a little bit of a glass cannon. It's really quick. It hits hard. All those sorts of things that you kind of want in a physical sweeper. And again, just being a physical attacker and a psychic type made it really stand out this early on. In later generations, it became a bit less impressive, but is overall very good. Now, you want to have access to a Dawnstone for quite a while. For some reason, I was thinking it was going to be a Duskstone, which is what I left hanging out in Wayward Cave and forgot to grab, but it's not. It's a Dawnstone. The Duskstone is for other Pokemon that we are not going to be using on our team. Now, I would love to use Ralts, but if you couldn't tell based on the way my team is designed, I'm trying to use Gen 4 only Pokemon this run. I don't want to be using anything from the other games, at least this time around, maybe in another playthrough of something else Gen 4 related someday. But yeah, right now, avoiding that. Ralts is technically a Gen 3 Pokemon, and as much as I love it, not going to be using it this time. Very, very good, though. All right, there we go. Finally got through all of the Pokemon in this area. I should also mention that Gallade does gain a fighting type, which in and of itself does make it better than Meditite and Medicham if you really want that type combination. So definitely worth going after in that regard. Now, we're going to talk about another topic that I am only a little bit learned about and don't fully understand because I've never really done it. We've talked about berries in our Generation 3 Pokemon Emerald playthrough. In Gen 4, there is a bit of a change to the way that berries work this time around. You still have access to all of the same berries in Gen 3, plus a bunch of new ones. However, growing berries is a little bit more complicated this time around because you don't just water them, you're also going to need access to things called mulch. Everyone sees to call me the Berry Master, hand out berries daily. So we're going to get a berry from this guy, which is a Lumberry. That's actually one that was really rare back in Gen 3, so we'll take that. Would you like some mulch? If you're going to grow berries, mulch is good fertilizer. Okay, let's talk about this. So mulch is something that you're going to place down in dirt before you plant a berry to affect its growing properties. Growth mulch makes berries grow much faster, but it dries out the soil faster, which you're going to then need to offset by something that moistens the soil. So if you want a quick berry, like quick reward, but then punish yourself later, get the growth mulch. If you're willing to be patient, you're going to want the damp mulch. It makes the soil damper, so it can be used much more often, but makes the berries grow a lot slower. Stable mulch makes berries hang onto the plant longer, so you don't need to immediately come pick up your berry once the growth period is done. You can wait a few days and it'll still be hanging onto the berry plant, no problem. If you wait too long, however, with any of these mulches, eventually the berry will fall off onto the ground and it'll be a sapling by the time you get here. Gooey mulch helps berries regrow more. So what I mean is once the berry actually falls off, there's a chance that the berry will then regrow into a new berry plant if you miss your opportunity to get it. Now, a gooey mulch guarantees that, so this is kind of the lazy mulch. If you fail to check up on your berries a lot, gooey mulch is what's going to help you with that. But personally, I would say just alternating between the growth and the damp mulch makes the most sense. Stable mulch can be fine if you don't turn on the game all that often, but if you're really actually taking the time to grow berries, you should probably be actually focusing on that. So just alternate these two and you'll be more than good. We're not going to be doing that right now, though. You forgetful type forgets where berries were planted. Sure. Yes, I thought so. I'm the same way. I feel sort of kinship with you. You can have this Poketch app. And now we're going to get ourselves a new app. Berry Searcher app indicates the locations of ripe berries. So why don't we take a look at that one really quickly? You can see that there is a location way over there to the left of, I think, Jubilife City, the west of it, that shows us where some berries are now available to go pick if we wanted to go after those. pretty nice when you're growing berries. Then you can keep track of all the ones that you are missing or what ones are actually ready to go get. So yeah, that was a lot of explanation for not a lot of crazy information, but at least it explains how berries work in this game. I will say it is a bit more like proactive than the berry growing mechanics of Emerald and Ruby and Sapphire, but it's still just kind of like not something I really take a lot of time to focus on unless I am specifically honed in on contests. Now, we'll get to contests a little bit later on, but I actually do not feel remotely comfortable talking about contests in the context of Gen 4. So I'm going to be saving that for probably the post-game, actually. Kind of like what I did with Emerald, but instead of literally demonstrating how you beat the contests like I did in Emerald, I'm probably just going to go with a brief overview about how contests differ in this game versus the way that they behaved in Emerald. We're not going to actually be going through all the contests this time around. It's going to be more of an afterthought this time, which is not to say that it's a bad system, because actually the contests in Gen 4 are more interesting than the ones in Gen 3. They're just also more time consuming, and you have to spend a lot of time really putting in an effort to make it a thing. And there also isn't a catch-all Pokemon like Claydol was in Gen 3, so there's also that. But all right, I think I have focused on using Helena enough here. We have done a lot to make her incredibly strong. My goodness. And we are almost done with this episode, but there is another trainer over here. Actually, I don't know if this is a trainer or just a guy that talks to you, but just in case, since he has a black belt, I'm going to switch to Era at the front. Don't say a word, just take it. Odd keystone? Interesting. Huh. I wonder what that does. Well, I guess we'll find out later. For now, let me throw on a repel here. And I actually think... Oh, I still have it. Wow. I think that this spot over here is actually a hidden item. Yes, a tiny mushroom. I will take that. Thank you very much. Okay, we are pretty much done with this route. Let's continue and head on through the gate. And of course, it wears off right as I head inside. Say Hearthome City. I only say this Pokemon contest. I'm going to enter my darling Pokemon in them. Hearthome City is a great place. Every year it gets voted the most desirable place to live in Sinnoh. And yes, everybody, welcome to Hearthome City. This is pretty much the central location of Sinnoh. Oh, thank goodness that you happened to be there. If it weren't for you, who knows how far away my Baneri could have run. Baby Baneri, back into the Pokeball you go. I'm Kara. I'm a Pokemon contest judge. Be sure to drop by the contest hall so I can thank you properly. Now, we'll head by there soon. We're not going to really talk about the mechanics of Pokemon contests, though. Like I said, we're going to save that for a little bit later. For now, we're just going to make our way around Hearthome and have a look. So, first of all, we have the Pokemon fan club here. Let's go on inside, because there's a few things I want to go over. First, let's talk to the president. Hello, hello. How I say, do you do? I am the Pokemon fan club chairman. Indeed, yes, I am. When you wish to treat your Pokemon to a treat, what I say, do you do? If I may say so, and I will, I feed Poffins to my Pokemon. And why I say what I do that? Because the giving of Poffins is a way of expressing your love. For example, if I were to give it a sweet Poffin, the Pokemon eating it would become more cute. A spicy Pokemon would add coolness. Yeah, we all know how this works. And he's going to give us a Poffin case. So Poffins are to Gen 4 what Pokeblocks were to Gen 3. Very similar in execution, just a little bit different in how you actually make them. Pokemon Fan Club or your era, it's quite friendly to you, must be happy dealing with you. Here is the friendship checker, if you ever want to know how close your Pokemon is to evolving. And then we also have this lady who is actually going to give us interviews. I'm with Jube Live TV, may I hit you with a quick interview? I'm going to say no this time, but we're just going to head on our way. So we got a Poffin case, which is needed for entering contests and for upping the cute/cool/tough/smart/beauty values of our Pokemon. We also have the Poffin house. Let's head on inside here. Actually, let's not do that, because I just realized that upon trying to do that, that my inputs literally don't work. Like, they kind of work, and I can kind of get it to mix, but it's just not nearly good enough. So we're just going to avoid the whole Poffin thing altogether. So yeah, Poffins are pretty much the same thing as Pokeblocks, but instead of a timing minigame like it was in Generation 3, where you're supposed to hit, like it spins around and you're supposed to basically hit a button in time just as it goes over your arrow to get the best possible Pokeblock. This time you got to do a whole bunch of stylus bullshit and a bunch of things. I hate it. I've always hated those sorts of mini games. It's like, oh, it's Cooking Mama, but for Pokemon. No. I'll pass on all that sort of stuff. Any sort of stylus mini games just really aren't my thing, and the whole stirring thing just doesn't really seem to work all that well. So I'm not even going to bother with that. But it's a thing. We're just not going to focus on contests really at all in this playthrough. The only reason I want to go to the contest hall is because we're going to actually get a couple of goodies in there, and I do want those but then we'll get to talk about contests, like I said, a little bit towards the end of the playthrough, probably. I don't even know if I want to do that because I really, like I said, this is just sort of a casual playthrough, and I'm not really trying to be 100% on everything here in Platinum. I just want to mostly just make it through the game, and contests are not required in any way, shape, or form. They're more just another side activity for bragging rights. And yeah. All right, I think that's going to pretty much cover everything I wanted to do in this episode. We made it here to Hearthome City. We made a lot of progress through, well, the entirety of Route 208, so I'd say we are good for now. Guys, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this episode very, very much. In the next episode, we're going to explore more of Hearthome City and possibly even head on into the next gym. So with all that said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.